We estimate there are tens of thousands of man-made chemicals that an average person will encounter throughout their lifetime. Almost all of those you see at such low levels that they have absolutely no effect on any kind of biology. Chemical toxicity or chemical safety only means anything in relation to how much you're exposed. So what we have to understand is what is the level at which a chemical starts having any activity in biology. My name is Richard Judson. I'm a bioinformatician here at the EPA in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina. I was brought in at the beginning of the founding of the National Center for Computational Toxicology about 10 years ago to develop computer models and databases to help predict the toxicity or the safety of chemicals. What I do is I develop databases that both hold all of the data, both the new data we generate and the old traditional toxicology data that we compare it with. I was trained as a theoretical chemist, and I had that mix of both a very practical mindset and the ability to do very complicated computer modeling and dealing with complicated kinds of data. The National Center for Computational Toxicology was like a startup company within the EPA, so we had a mission to develop some really new techniques to solve this very big problem of too many chemicals and not enough data. Relatively quickly, for tens of thousands of dollars, we can test a given chemical, and we actually test thousands of chemicals at a time in these very broad sweeps of what we call in vitro assays. Prioritization is needed because there are these very detailed studies one does, or risk assessments, where you decide what is the safe level of the chemical. If you are exposed to tens of thousands of chemicals in your lifetime, you have to do some kind of a prioritization. And so you can think of what we're doing as looking for the needle in a haystack, the very small set of bad actors within this relatively large set of chemicals that are beneficial on average. If your exposure is way down here and nothing happens till you get up here, there's what's called a margin of safety. Then we would say, as far as exposure is concerned, that chemical we won't worry about that. Whereas if you start getting that gap between where people are exposed and where effects start happening, gets smaller and smaller, we have more and more concern. And when it finally gets this way, there's significant concern. So those are the chemicals we want to look at more closely. So we do the hazard modeling, the risk or safety-based modeling, and we do the exposure modeling, and we always compare those two. That's really the bottom line for us very complicated science types, as well as for the public, that we really have a good idea of what this safe level is, and we have a good idea of what the exposure levels are. We're working hard to try to find the small number where there's something, some overlap. So the EPA, we're actually trying to help the American public by making sure that products are safe, and working with both people at the regulators, as well as people at companies and people at universities to collaboratively do that.